And
I have those legislators.
who are they? Like,
Diane Allen, Thomas Goodwin, and Robert Singer did not record a vote. And Sean Kane voted along with the Democrats.
yeah. That's why Tom Goodwin lost, I guess. Sean Kane is from Monmouth. He voted with the Democrats. There'll be protesters at his office. These folks have to hear from us. They have to. They have to hear from you. They have to hear from you on the telephone. What are the best things you can do? It's one of the questions I get all the time. The best thing you can do is go to their office like we did with Mitch McConnell. That's the best thing you can do. The second best thing you can do is a live telephone call. The third best thing you can do is a handwritten letter. Not a typed letter, not an email. A handwritten letter with your name on it. Don't write anonymous letters. Nobody cares about anonymous letters or emails. With your name and your address so they can get back to you. Emails are, if that's all you can do, but they're really, you get interns probably deleting most of them half the time. But if you can take time out of this group and go see, say, Senator Kevin O'Toole or Senator Jerry Cardinale and say, Senators, why aren't you on this bill to repeal cap and trade? You should get an answer. You should demand an answer. You guys have worked way too hard getting where we are today to expect any less. You never compromised your time in the commitment you put into this movement. Neither should they compromise on our values. So, any questions? Yeah, I'll be taking questions.
Right here.
Yeah, thank you.
Hi. Does AFP and StopTheSpending.com have a section for New Jersey where we can go?
You mean the Spending Revolt website on our...
Stop the Spending?
No, we don't have a Jersey-specific portion, but there's a lot of content. If you go to our Liberty Library, we have a whole state budget analysis, which is pretty complex. And we'll be coming out with our legislative midterm scorecard in January, which will say how they voted on all the fiscal bills that were passed. No Republican's going to do real good.
So what's that website?
Well, if you go to the taxpayer, or AFP's homepage, if you go to my website, taxpayerminute.com, that goes right to the website, to AFP, and to all our resources.
Okay. I just want to say that we're just beginning this fight. We've got our soldiers on the very edge of the battlefield, and it's a continent of monsters. Unions, bureaucracy, entrenched, cancerous monsters. And we're going to have to fight every inch of the way for years. And these Bergen County senators, they know. They just saw what happened in Bergen County. We have a lot of power with them. We have to call them and write letters.
Well, that's a good point. There will be redistricting this year. There's going to be new legislative districts. A lot of these people are going to find themselves in new towns where people don't know them. They're going to have to explain the property tax hikes. They're going to have to explain the state's economic condition. They're going to have to explain their position on cap and trade and health care. So I think there's a very good opportunity to persuade them to do the right thing.
Steve, we have problems on a local level too, where the local Republicans who run Wyckoff at least haven't figured out that the Stop the Spending also applies to the towns. What do you suggest about that? Going to meetings or?
Well, so I was as you know, I was a mayor for 12 years. And so it's no matter, that layer of government is still the very best there is because you can go to those meetings and you can put that stuff up on the internet and you can hold them accountable. So yeah, of course, it's even not so much going to meetings as Mel's just getting your hands on what they're doing. Getting their budget, putting it up on the internet, looking at spending issues, asking for expenses. How much are they going to spend to go to the League of Municipalities next week? Are they going to go and stay in the fanciest hotels? And I mean, this is this kind of stuff they do. But that takes somebody in a town who's willing to do that kind of work.
Let me just say, I mean, as a blogger also, if you go to these meetings and bring your little flip cameras, you can really expose them. It's a powerful tool, and you should go to the meetings and you should bring them and hold them accountable that way as well.
In Wyckoff, they're buying open spaces with grants that they say won't cost us anything.
Oh yeah, the grants, the free grants that don't cost.
Yeah, but we have a private meeting with them, and then we're going to go to the newspapers. Is that a?
Oh, absolutely. You just have to get all your details together. That's it.
Thank you, Steve. Just a thought on, I understand the governor's coming up with some kind of toolbox
Yeah.
That's supposed to be used for the municipalities to deal with this 2% tax cut or tax cap.
2% cap.
You heard anything about that?
Yeah, I've read all the bills in the toolbox. The cap is no longer 2%, it's 2.9%, 2.5%. The same as was passed by Brendan Byrne in 1976, by the way. We've always had a cap of some type. Every governor's introduced some sort of a cap, and there's always ways to get around the cap. I'll tell you what's not in the toolkit, and I'm talking as a mayor for 12 years. There's no repeal of project labor agreements passed by Jim McGreevey as Executive Order number 1. Project labor agreement says that any project the town does, they have to pay union wages. That's driven up the cost of projects. When I was already a mayor for years when McGreevey came into office, 5 years, 30% increase in the cost of projects. Non-union shops can't even compete, just ridiculous. The second thing that was not repealed is binding arbitration. New Jersey is one of 2 states in the nation that has binding arbitration, which has driven up, salaries across the board. The real tools aren't in the toolbox. You know what's in the toolbox? Screwdrivers, folks. That's about it. And I'll say that publicly anywhere. I was a mayor for 12 years. There's nothing in that toolbox that's nothing but nonsense. Okay? Nothing. And I'll have that debate anywhere, anytime. We can go bill by bill. Anyone who wants to support it, when they put a tool that says the binding arbitrator will consider the impact on taxpayers. So what if they consider the impact on taxpayers? Project labor agreements, binding arbitration, and all the other nonsense and the unfunded state mandates stay totally in place. So that's my opinion of the toolbox. Not that I have an opinion on the toolbox. Don't misunderstand.
Good.
Obviously, we're not that knowledgeable, but now that we're becoming more aware, we'd like to write letters and make phone calls to O'Toole, Cardinali, Christie, etc. How do we get the addresses and telephone numbers of these people? Anybody can help us?
Oh yeah, we have all of that on our website and our newsletter, or we can even provide it to you in your group, can get it out to the group. You know what you should do? You should pick a project. Pick one project and achieve that project. Make it a decision that this group's going to go to Senator Jerry Cardinali or whomever and say, we want you to join the cap and trade repeal bill. Yeah. If you achieve that, that's a huge success. You can't do everything. Pick the one thing that everybody here is committed to. Believe me, you all these guys sitting here today show up at Jerry Cardinali's office, at Kevin O'Toole's office, they won't know which way to turn. They won't know what to do. They'll freak out. They'll hate my guts, but that's okay. Everybody hates me anyway.
On the way over tonight, Mark Levin was commenting about how the Republicans do not have a plan for Medicare. They don't have a plan for Social Security. Yay-raw, we won, but there are no plans. Do you have any comments about that one?
The Republicans and John Boehner, these people are going to have to be pushed. They want to talk about, Boehner wants to talk about how he's not going to take a $25,000 Air Force jet home. He's going to fly commercial. Oh, wow. Because it costs $25,000 for Nancy Pelosi to fly an Air Force jet. We're supposed to pay attention to that while they're spending trillions and trillions of dollars. Personally, I don't want John Boehner on a commercial flight with me. I don't want to be a target of terrorism. I bet you it costs more money than $25 grand to secure a commercial plane for the Speaker of the House, who's third in line for president. That's really nonsense. See, they want you to pay attention to that little stuff. Meanwhile, they're not making the big cuts. And, I didn't hear Mark Levin's idea about Medicare or Medicaid. I think both of these programs are destined for destruction for the next generation, and I think they should be redone away with and privatized. That's what I think, but I'm not going to get my way today.
Okay, this lady over here.
I don't know if you know about this or anyone in the room does. I had asked a few people this question. 3 weeks ago, Rush Limbaugh on his radio show, a woman wrote in and she wanted to know about taking 401k money and pension money that's been accumulated all the years. Now, I've worked 34 years, and my money is wherever it's been distributed. When Wall Street crashed, a lot of it's gone, but it's being built up again. What they say is in this lame duck session, there's a woman from California, she's some sort of legislator. They're going to try and pass a bill where they'll be able to take our money that's in 401k and in pensions and fund the busted pensions in New York and California.
Yeah, that's
the money in
I think there would be war. I think people would take out guns.
It's scary. And he knew
well, there's a lot of nuts out there that come up with stuff.
But he had said, he was very vocal on it.
Most of them were in the Senate.
But I didn't hear any more about it, so I was trying to find information.
You know, I'm wondering at what point Americans will bear arms, and I think at that point you'll probably see it happening.
Steve, we have a question from the back of the room.
Sure.
Hi, Steve. Bob Tatchell, way back here. First off, you're a great American, Steve. Perhaps everyone here doesn't know, but next November, all 120 senators and assemblywomen in the state of New Jersey are up for re-election. Unfortunately, by the time November rolls around, most of the decisions have been made because of the way the districts have been gerrymandered. There's very few competitive districts. So the point is that you have to get involved at the primary level. So the time isn't in June to November to be active. It's between now and the primary. And when you call up Jerry Cardinale, he's a decent man, Kevin O'Toole or the Assemblywoman Vander Walk or Assemblyman Schroeder, they're all up in here in Bergen County. You call them and say, I'd like you to come and speak to a citizens group. Don't say Tea Party. Because you know what? They want face time. They want your votes. And that's a very good time to bring them into something and question about the Reggie, and about this health care plan. Get them on your turf. If not, then go over there in the afternoon. Go to their legislative offices. They have local offices. Knock on their door, politely, insistently, and say, I'd like an appointment. And then show up with 20 or 30 of your friends.
Yeah, that's right.
And you know what? No one ever shows up at these offices. They get maybe 5 phone calls a day.
If they get that many, you're right.
Exactly. So when 100 people show up, they think they can become president if they please me.
Is there a question for Steve specifically?
That's a good statement. No, and that does lead to something else. Folks, being a state senator or assembly person is not that big a deal. In other words, anybody can do it in this room. Anyone in this room right now is capable of becoming a state senator. All you got to do is have the initiative to stand up on your values and principles and get out there and do it. Nobody's not vulnerable, as we've proven in the Tea Party movement in the last year. So if the folks that representatives are not going to represent you properly, then you need to think about running for office, and don't be afraid to do it. I was never elected to office until 1995, when I was sick and tired of a 3-term powerhouse Democrat mayor in my 2-to-1 Democrat town of Pagoda, and I decided to run, and I beat him. And it was a lot of fun. So don't think that there's some higher echelon of people that serve. Most of the people in this room are much smarter than most of the people in Trenton. I guarantee that.
Yes, ma'am.
If I'm registered as an independent, can I vote in the primaries?
No. To vote in the primary, which will be in June, you have to become a Republican 30 days before the primary. If you're an undeclared, which is different than independent, you can declare right at the voting booth. If you're a Democrat, you can switch to Republican 30 days prior. If you're an independent, which is an affiliation, you can switch to Republican.
Now, I've gone to primaries as an independent, and they said, oh, you just have to declare.
Right, but that's because you're undeclared.
No, I'm independent.
That well.
So there's registered independents and there's undeclared.
Right, there's the difference.
There's 2 categories.
Well, folks, ladies and gentlemen, I brought a couple of boxes of my books that they're compliments of AFP. I'm proud of this book because I actually sell more copies of my books on Amazon and Barnes & Noble than Nancy Pelosi sold in hers.
That's a good one.
Thank you.